Welcome back to the 100 Horror Films in 31 Days, day 15. Got in 3 films in between watching football and baseball playoffs and all that stuff. I was lucky to really get 3 films in. First up, I watched 1958's The Screaming Skull, which was the directorial debut of Alex Nicole, who's mainly known for like Tarzan and Westerns. I don't think he has much of a feel for horror based on this film, but that's my opinion. It stars Peggy Webber, who marries this guy that lost his first wife under mysterious circumstances, and long story short, basically, it's a haunted house, murder mystery, whodunit kind of thing. Very, very slow and static shots. It's the kind of static filmmaking that just is not very exciting. It's a tough watch. I've seen The Screaming Skull a number of times, and it just doesn't. It's not one of my favorites. It's fun. I watched the MS3TK Mystery Science Theater 3000, and even that it was still tough to sit through it, but I managed. Anyway, that was a subset pick from the DVD Talk forum, so it was kind of, I guess, mandatory watching, if you will. Then I just had to do some Friday the 13th since I missed out on Friday the 13th watching films, and I watched one of my favorites, Part 2, and of course I've got the Blu-ray box set. This thing apparently is going for like $500 now. Crazy money. But I watched the Steve Miner Part 2, the Taterhead Jason. I would say Part 2 and Part 4, the final chapter, are clearly my favorites. I actually like all of them. I mean, the Friday the 13th films deliver. I mean, if you like iconic kills, I mean, they've taken the Friday with a few variations. Obviously, like Jason X, they went off in a few different directions. But the consistency of the formula is what I like so much about Friday the 13th, and for the most part, they stay true to the formula. But I love Part 2. Taterhead Jason is great, and it's probably one of the, you could count on one hand maybe the sequels that are better than the original film. And I think Part 2 is better than Friday the 13th Part 1. But yeah, that's Friday the 13th Part 2. And I think everyone's seen it, so I don't really need to go over the storyline. But I will do, as I always try to do with slasher films, my Joe Bob Briggs rundown of the totals here. So let me find it, and I will give you my Joe Bob Briggs totals. And remember, my threshold for a really good slasher film is a total of 10. Obviously, this is a very subjective scoring system. It's meant to be fun. But here we go. 1, Screwdriver Through the Temple. That's a point. 1 returning cameo for the old man that says, "You are all doomed." 1 point for the super short Daisy Dukes with the butt cheeks hanging out. I took a point off for the killing of the final girl from the first film. I think most fans don't like that, whether it's the Alien franchise or the Friday the 13th. If you got a final girl and she makes it through all the bullshit of surviving a slasher killer, and then just kill her off easily, kill her off in the follow-up film. I just never liked that. -1 for the fake jump scare with Paul, where he sticks his arm around. You got the jump scare where he sticks his arm around, and I don't know, it was lame. 1 point for killing off the old man with the neck. He got garroted by the tree. And every time I see that, it's like, how the hell does the guy get the garrote over the frickin' tree. Obviously, he can't. He's got to go around. But if you watch it, it's some very slick editing as far as how he got that garrote around the tree and around the guy's neck. 1 point for the nice rack on Jeff's. I think it's Jeff's girlfriend. Yeah, Sandra. She had a nice rack on her. 1 point for the hammer to the back of the head of the sheriff. 1 point for the upside down throat slitting. I gave obviously the most iconic scene in the film is I think the actor's Tom McBride that played the wheelchair bound jock. I gave 2 points for the machete to the face. I mean, that is a mean-spirited kill, and it's an iconic kill. That's, you know, if that had happened in 2017, there would be an uproar because of the politically incorrectness of it. You gotta give that 2 points. Half a point for the spear through the back of the two lovers. It was kind of a it was a duplicate of a kill from the first film, but all you saw was the spear going into the floor. And then half a point to the knife to the stomach, which again was kind of a cutaway. Now the big rat pee scene, I took a point away for the rat pee scene. Is it rat pee or did Amy Steele pee? That is the question. I think it's rat pee. Machete to the shoulder at the final part at the end of the film, that garners a point, and that gets you to 10, which makes this a top line slasher film, which we all know. Part 2 is a great slasher film. Drive-In Award Academy nominations for Amy Steele as the final girl. So that'll do it for Friday the 13th. And then the last film I watched was the Japanese masterpiece from 1964, Kwaidan. Matsaki Kobayashi's epic 3-hour film. It's a ghost anthology film. Ironically enough, it was based on some short stories by a guy named Hearn. And Hearn, in like 1900, had moved to Japan and wrote these short stories. He obviously picked up very well in the Japanese culture, because if I hadn't known it was a guy named Hearn, I would have thought it was written by someone, you know, basically that was Japanese. It's a beautiful film, just a beautiful, haunting, eerie film. It's interesting. There's a lot of studio sets here, even though it's outdoor scenes. You know, one of the anthologies is The Woman in the Snow. They obviously did the snow and the forest area in studio, which I think gives it kind of an otherworldly feel that actually heightens the eeriness of this thing. I mean, there's no other way to describe this other than it's a masterpiece, and it's the best, hands down, the best ghost story movie ever done, in my opinion. This is a 10 out of 10 film. Now, this release, a little interesting backstory here, because when I did the research for Kwaidan on which version to buy, I ended up buying this Eureka release, which has a 72-page booklet including the short stories, essay form, and then a long, lengthy interview with the director. And the reason I did that is when I first looked at it, the Criterion was short, 20 minutes. So it was not the uncut Japanese release. And I guess I just didn't do a very good job of due diligence, because it turns out the Eureka, the Criterion Blu-ray is the full uncut release, and it's got a lot more special features than this Eureka release. I mean, this Eureka release is workable, but I kind of screwed myself over. If you don't have Kwaidan and you're looking to buy it, I would highly recommend the Criterion Blu-ray. But it is what it is. I screwed up. other than the booklet, which I've been reading. I got it pulled out. Here's the internal artwork on this. So that'll wrap up day 15, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks.